prove that I'm working because my boss thinks I'm just playing all the time. So, any questions before we start? Everyone knows why they're here, right? Okay, awesome.
Are you familiar with urban roots?
I am.
Yeah. Our granddaughter was really engaged in that.
Good.
She got a job in New York doing the same thing.
Yes. Well, I started off in conventional gardening, and then I grew up in an organic family and a family that was heavily involved in oil, so I had conventional and organics, and I worked both sides, and I went back to the conservation side that supports native habitats and organics for a reason, and we're going to go over that today. So, the third rule, sharing your garden with nature, and that's all of nature. Bunnies too, guys. If you don't want the bunnies to eat your pansies, either don't plant pansies because they're delicious, or put mints in your garden.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't like bunny, deer, and what's another one? These bunny, deer, rats, they don't like really pungent smelling plants. So if you mix and incorporate those into your garden, that really helps. Squirrels will tear up pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Especially Texas squirrels. So today we're going to garden as a partnership with nature. We're going to learn the third rule concept, practical ways to support pollinators and wildlife in your garden year-round. And this is mostly geared towards your vegetable and fruit gardening, but this can be incorporated in your Texas wildscape, your cottage garden, even your xeric garden as well, because we know that deer and squirrels like to munch on our agave and cactus. And then your soil to ecosystem connections, why those are important. Without healthy soil ecology, we do not have a healthy ecosystem or plant life. Oh, and I always put the little critters there that everyone gets weird about. Possums are very important. If you don't know, ask me why. Beetles incredibly important. Grubs in your soil are part of the ecosystem. Everyone has a job. We're always going to find grubs in our ground. When we dig a hole, if you dig a like 12-inch deep hole and you find 5 grubs, that's fine. If you find like 50 of them, there's something going on. There's an imbalance in the ecosystem. Okay, stewardship. If you're here, I assume everyone is a great steward of the land, correct? We all care for her, nurture her. We'll open this door. Maybe I should leave it open.
Hello. Sorry.
You're good. There's not a lock.
Well, I want to
No, you can fix it right here. We'll just move this over here so we're not in the way. What are your names?
Tom and Lisa Morgan.
Okay, Tom and Lisa Morgan. Perfect. Okay. So, what are we going to do today? Identify seasonal nectar plants and pollinators, understand soil plant pollinator relationships, adopt at least one wildlife-friendly practice. Okay, the third rule. Has anyone heard of the third rule before? Can you guess what it might be?
A third to nature.
So it's actually a third to yourself. Yeah. So we're gonna plant 3 times as much of our harvest that we expect, because we're gonna expect a third of that to maybe go to disease, drought, pest, and then a third to wildlife, like your bunnies, your squirrels, your birds, everything. But the great thing about doing that is when you plant a third for your critters, they're also going to be your pest control. I don't ever have to spray pesticides in my garden, not even organic, because my birds, I have crows, I call to them all the time, they do not appreciate it. They take care of all my caterpillars and all my beetles in my garden. So you would think that my garden would be really eaten up because I don't put nets out. I don't spray any BT or anything like that, but the birds take care of it quite well for me. So that's what we're going to talk about, the thirds rule. We're going to plant a third for our harvest and our beauty for ourselves. We're going to plant a third for the wildlife and then a third for ecological balance. Like I was talking about, grubs and bugs in the soil are really important. what do you find when you dig into the soil? Anybody just raise your hand and shout it out.
Worms.
Worms.
Rocks.
Yes, if you live over here,
About 2 inches
we
down.
grow rocks. I live on top of a limestone shelf, so we have lots of rocks, lots of centipedes, microanthropods, really wonderful things that help build soil. And what happens when we have these master plan cities and these big giant corporations come in and scrape the land? What happens to our soil?
Kills everything.
Kills everything. We lose those nutrients, we lose the topsoil, we lose those native species that support our ecological habitat in our region. So one way that we can build that soil back up is by not putting out pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, and synthetic chemical fertilizers, because all those things start to kill our ecosystem, our ecology over time. And then that's when we get out of balance. When we put heavy salt chemical fertilizers in, then it starts to dry up the soil, harden it, and it makes it harder for our microbes to live and work in the soil. We have roly-polies and snails. Who hates roly-polies and snails? Who thinks those are a huge pest? Oh, good, great, yeah. They all have a job. So typically bugs, pests, I'll say pests, like your thrips and your aphids and your mealies and your scale are attracted to sickly plants. They see this yellow-green light that kind of gives them a signal. This is an easy plant. I'm going to go down and I'm going to start taking nutrients from it. Then we have our decomposers who are going to take heavy, dense nutrient plants with dense, thick cell walls and start to munch on those and decompose it and then feed it back into the soil. Those are our beneficial guys. Our snails are one of those beneficial guys. Though they may eat your seedlings, unfortunately, they are part of the ecosystem and they're really important. So that's part of the ecological balance, and then we're going to encourage biodiversity and resilience. We want to plant as much plant life as possible and diverse plant life. We are in a really special region. Who is originally from the hill country, or who's been here for at least 20 years? Okay, very good. Where else has everyone come from? Where have you come from?
I'm in California.
California, that's fine. My dad lived in California for a little bit. I'm originally from New Mexico, but I grew up in the Houston area. Where are you from?
Texas.
From Texas, okay. And where did you guys come from?
Florida.
Florida, all right. I would love to live in Florida. My husband said no. He said too many hurricanes. It was like,
If that's your.
that's the least concerned over there.
Yeah, he's gotta get over that.
Yeah, he's born and raised here, so he's one of those. So we live in the most biodiverse region in the upper Americas. We have over 400 endemic species that evolved here in the hill country. The only other place in the Americas that beats us is, it's gonna be the Amazon. It's gonna be down in South America. That, you can't find that amount of plant life anywhere else that is endemic in the rest of the United States. So we have a very special place. I know we get a bad rap for soil, and that's partly because of construction and then people wanting to plant things that aren't native to the region that suffer and then take up a bunch of water and require more nutrients. I'm not against building up nutrients. I work for a biological fertilizer company. I think it is crucial to add in those nutrients that feed your native microbes, but you don't want to rely on those things. I'm addictive and obsessive, so I put it out constantly, but I get it for free, so that's good for me. And you guys can have some samples. Yay. So the plant life here is really important and crucial to our ecosystem to support our native habitats. Bees, native bees are important. We do have honeybees that are from Europe. They outcompete our bees, our native bees. I think we have like over 100 or something that are native to the region or to just Texas in general. But the honeybees aren't what actually help our ecosystem. It's just for the crops, and then there's a lot that goes into that, and it's a lot of politics, and we won't go into that. We'll save that for another talk. But we need to support our native pollinators, our native wildlife with our native species. And when you use the native ecological species to the region, we're going to use less water. We're going to build up the soil and it's gonna be able to penetrate that limestone, that caliche, a lot better. So, we live in a nice region with nice plants. We just have to know what that region is with those plants. And birds are our ecological helpers that can help control pests like we talked about. And then, like I said, you're gonna expect a third of that harvest back for yourself. Sometimes, most of the time, you're gonna get more than a third. We just wanna expect that we're gonna get less so that we're happy at the end of the day. We get that $500 batch of tomatoes. But when you start working with the ecosystem, you'll start to realize year after year, you build that up, you're gonna have a biodiverse habitat, you're gonna have this biome in your backyard that's gonna really thrive for you. And you can get these beautiful humidity bubbles. And also, you'll have a cooler area. The more green you have, the cooler it's gonna be. With all this construction here, we're having the heat island effect. More concrete buildings. It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. I've been in Austin since, I think 2012. I think it's 2012. And it was a lot cooler here. I came from San Antonio, from Houston. And it started to get hotter here than I remembered San Antonio being. San Antonio seems more humid to me for whatever reason. Now, okay, why are we gonna share your garden? Stronger pollination. I do cottage gardening. It's not for everyone. I'm a little wild. And if you see in my Instagram post, you'll understand that. I do a lot of biodiverse habitat builds with your vegetables and your fruits. I encourage using your native fruit trees if you can. And then I am not a purist. I'm not gonna say you can't have apples here. Go for it. If it makes you happy, life is short. Plant your apple trees. I'm not gonna say put ice on them for chill hours, but do what you need to make yourself happy and enjoy your place. As long as we just mix in those native perennials or adaptive, we want to say adaptive because there's a lot of adaptive species. We don't have a lot of the true natives available here at nurseries. Greensleeves Nursery, anyone heard of them? They are one of my most favorite people. They have partnered with the Native Plant Rescue Project where they go and they save plants from sites that are going to be demolished and constructed on. So they'll get those species, they're keystone species. Keystone species, anyone know what that is? Yeah?
It's if you get rid of those, it collapses the whole system.
Exactly. An example of a keystone species is an oak or your goldenrod. Those support multiple life forms. Once those things start to decline, then we start to see a decline in our wildlife. Just like we see the Nandina removal, the ligustrum removal on our trails. Anyone ever volunteer at the Parks and Trails Foundation? It's okay. Well, I'm telling you, so now that you know. It is fun to learn. Whenever you get those invasive species that come from other countries, they outcompete our species. They grow faster, so that our keystone species don't have a chance to reach that light to grow. They bring their own pests and disease. And it keeps those pests and disease unchecked because we have nothing to compete against that here. We're just slower growing. We're on a lot of limestone. We don't grow that fast here. We're Texas. We live a slow life, right? That's what everyone says about us. So whenever you introduce these invasive species that people brought over and thought it would be a really great idea to feed cattle with, or just because it grew 20 feet in a year and gave you great privacy, we start to completely kill out our native ecology, which we're facing now. The Gulf Coast is the fastest eroding coast in the entire world. Our creeks and beds and our rivers are starting to erode and all that sediment's going down. We're losing about a football field's length a year on the Gulf Coast. Our oyster reef is almost completely extinct. They're trying to rebuild it. So what we do here and what they do up in North America ripples all the way down to the ocean. And when we use invasive species, those species do not retain soil structure. They pop up on our riparian zones along the rivers, and the soil erodes. And then when we use a lot of chemical synthetic inputs without proper application, that erodes the soil further and causes contamination and disrupts the nitrogen cycle within our water. Dogs can't go swim in Lady Bird Lake anymore. It's not just because of the fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides. It's a combination of things, from people not picking up their dog poop, like a simple thing like that, that runs off and that creates algae blooms. But we're here to work with nature, not against it. So invasive species are not the best way to go, even though we like Vitex and they look really beautiful. They are very invasive now, even though they were on the Grow Green Guide. Anyone use the Grow Green Guide? Crepe myrtles too. Crepe myrtles are from Asia. They are not originally from here. The cultivars that have Native American names, those are created, they're cultivars. They take up too much water. Crepe myrtles are riddled with crepe myrtle bark scale. And there's only one little bug that consumes that, and that's the spotted ladybug. The black spotted one. That's the only one that takes care of them. Other than that, you have to put on horrible chemicals that if you put them on, they're in the ground, and you have to remove every bloom from that tree for a year, because whatever visits that is going to get contaminated and eventually probably get really sick or die from it. So it's your hummingbirds, it's your bees, it's your butterflies, it's even just your regular birds. So I'm going on a tangent now, I'm so sorry. If you have any questions at any point, please raise your hand, speak up. I'm not super formal. You can just talk out at any point. Yes?
So, instead of crepe myrtle, what would be something appropriate?
Something appropriate would be a Texas kidney wood. They're absolutely stunning.
I've never heard of it.
Oh my goodness, or bee brush? Anyone have sweet almond verbena or smelled sweet almond verbena? Okay. That is a South American species, and the bee brush is like a adaptive ecological species here. They have these pretty white flowers. They're kind of like a little cone shape that smell like sweet almond, and you can smell them for like 20 yards away if you really know what you're smelling. They're beautiful, bring in pollinators. Even hummingbirds try to visit them because of the nectar, but the flowers are so small, but they're so sweet. They're just absolutely in love with them. Your whole yard will be covered with bees, butterflies, moths, anything you can think of in the bloom season. So, sweet almond verbena is not native, but it's adaptive and it's not invasive. And I'll have like a short plant list that you guys can take pictures of, or you can email me and I can send you the slides. The kidney wood is a larger version of that. That tree can grow about like 10 feet within 6 years, and it's stunning. I planted one in my front yard, and that one's a good one. And you can plant it in the middle of a concrete pad. Like, it does not require water. I'm all about water conservation. That's the big thing that I work across Texas. Healthy soil equals clean water. And that's why I partnered with St. Edward's for the Get Fertilizer Wiser program. Less water, less resources, more people are moving here. We have more campuses being built for corporations. They're taking more water. Watersheds can't handle it. So anything that can save you water, save you money, and save our ecosystem, I'm for it. And then the bee brush is the native version of like the sweet almond verbena. You'll see them out when you're driving on the highways. They're very airy and white blooms. They're super beautiful. So when you think about migration, when people want to ask about, well, this wasn't here back when, I'm like, okay, we can go back all the way to like when we crossed the Russian Strait, okay? So the birds migrate, they bring seeds from South America, drop them, and they start growing and cross-pollinating and adapting to the region. So that's why I'm okay with adaptive species. Another one would be a desert willow. Those give you beautiful purple and fuchsia and like pink blooms. Hummingbirds love them. So when we're talking about different pollinator plants to incorporate into your garden, I'm really big on using your perennials in your vegetable and your fruit gardens, because those will give you blooms year round and it'll take less watering. I hate having to water annuals, and I hate having to install them every 3 months. But I'll do things like purseland, because that's fine, it'll reseed. Ginkgo will reseed, but I don't want to put pansies and petunias in because in 2 months they're going to be fried and they require too much water. But I'm not completely against everything. You laugh like you know I am.
What about an invasive species like Nandina? How do you propose getting rid of them?
That is so hard, and working in conservation, you use conventional and you use sustainable techniques. So getting rid of Nandina takes more than just ripping it out, because if you leave a root or a berry falls, it grows again. And another thing about those berries is they are highly toxic, so our songbirds start eating them and then they die. That's another reason. Our birds they're not just our pest control, they're also what creates life across the world for us, because they plant seeds for us. The Nandina is gonna have to require chemical intervention, but it has to be done correctly. I'm not against conventional completely, because there is a cause in conservation where we'll have to use it. And the great thing about microlife is there's a wonderful beneficial bacteria in here. We have trillions of microbes in and on us, on our bodies and in our bodies, and the soil has billions of microbes. The microbes within our microlife products are the ones that we safely share with the soil that are already in our body. Bacillus megaterium is a beneficial bacteria that consumes and degenerates glyphosate, which is in Roundup. There's a few different strands of trichoderma, which are fungi species that consume salts and chemicals. So if you do have to use chemicals, I do some consulting on oil field remediation with produced water spills in West Texas. And there's some nasty chemicals from the fracking that happen whenever we have spills. You can use products like this. We have humates, which is going to be your most concentrated compost, concentrated carbon on Earth, and we inoculate it with the beneficial microbes that consume those chemicals. So if you have to use chemical, put that out, and then after you have your die-off, then you could put something out like microlife to help consume those issues so it doesn't run off and create more damage everywhere or harm the rest of the ecosystem. And you can eat it if you want to see me eat it. Yeah, so this is all food grade. We will never hide our ingredients. And if you look at it, it's basically the same recipe that people and tribes have been using for thousands of years. They worked with the land, they used the land. Now I'm vegan, and there's blood meal and fish meal in here, but we're using products that are already being processed in a sustainable manner. Everything in here is going to help feed your soil so that we have stronger, nutrient-dense plants. Your soil is not healthy, you won't have healthy plants. Your microbes and your plant roots are symbiotic to each other. They connect, they bring each other nutrients. So without your microbes, you will not have a healthy plant. We have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which is your NPK 624. Those are naturally occurring in your soil. We have to make them available. With all the use and abuse that we had on our lands, there's a lot of salt, there's a lot of chemicals, there's a lot of disruption. So they can't access those nutrients in the soil. And then we get a lot of die-off. When you go into the soil, have you seen like a white webby network under there? That's your mycorrhizal fungi. That's gonna spread everywhere. That's one of your beneficial microbes. They communicate what nutrients are out, and they trade nutrients with your plant roots, which the plant roots will put out exudates, some juices, to the microbes, so the microbes will come back and give them the nutrients that they want. So they're bartering. They're helping each other. But when you use your synthetic chemicals like we'll say Miracle-Gro. Miracle-Gro is a salt conventional fertilizer created for row-shows. Row-shows, you get this big beautiful bloom, and then after the show, we don't care if it dies, it's just gonna crash. It's like a drug. You're injecting those nutrients or those synthetics straight into the plant, and you have to keep it on there, otherwise it's going to crash and it's gonna ask for more. So we keep it on that cycle. It's the golden goose. If you don't keep it on that cycle, you'll see the crash, then you get pests, and then you put out your pesticides, and then when you have pests, you soon have disease, and you put out your fungicide. And then when you do that, you kill the soil even further, and then you get what we call weeds. But weeds are just Mother Nature's way of putting a green living mulch out. Whatever that soil can handle, the earth will put those seeds forward, and a lot of times they're undesirables. So if you learn what the desirables are, and if you create a healthier environment, you'll have something that you would prefer. When I moved in over here about 3 years ago, my yard was just straight sticker burrs and hard caliche soil. There was nothing to it. Everything was dead. I ripped it all out. I pushed a red bud tree that was like 12 feet over with my hand. It was all dead. And within 6 months, I had horseherb come back. Then Bermuda, it's not native, but that came back. St. Augustine's not native, but that came back. And then I had spiderwort come up, and I had all types of wine cups come up because I was feeding that soil. I did not have stickers in my yard. I have 2 dogs, I have a kid, I'm barefoot. No issues, didn't put out one herbicide. All right, so healthy soil, healthy plants, strong and resilient. The harsher your soil conditions, the harsher the plant life will be that will grow there. And does anyone want to watch me eat it just to prove a point? No? Okay. The students love it.
You can if you want to.
No, I don't want to. I mean, it'll support my gut biome.
We won't judge.
So, did anyone have questions on that? I know I kind of like go off on things. Was it clear? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So now, natural pest regulation will increase our biodiversity. We'll have a more vibrant green garden ecosystem. When you have multiple different plant species, they bring nutrients in, they help support each other, and then we'll have intermittent bloom so that we support wildlife at different parts of the season. I think I got off on the tangent because I was talking about we were talking about first the annuals, then the andina, and then I went off on the soil. So that's what happens. I'm very ADHD. You can always tell me to go back to the slides. Like, I won't be offended. So when you have intermittent blooms, you're going to support wildlife year round. I do prefer using perennials, but you can always add in annuals. Just be conscious of what you're using. I love me some, let's see, I don't really do marigolds, but they do put off exudates in the soil that help with the microbes. And they are a trap plant, so when they start dying, that's because we're taking bugs that won't be on your crops to the marigolds instead of them consuming your plants that you want to harvest. But just be conscious of what you're doing. Ginkgo's great in the summer. It doesn't really provide much of a nectar source. Your bees are going to love heavy pollen plants, wine cups, anything that is like a sunflower. Your hummingbirds are going to love your tubular flowers, anything like a crossvine, esperanza, pentas even. And your butterflies like a flatter surface. They want something to land onto so that they can get nectar easily. That's going to be your phlox. Even they'll like your sunflowers. They'll go for Greg's blue mist, things like that. So if you just think about how they land on stuff, then it's kind of easy to visualize how they get nectar or pollen. And then when you start observing your ecosystem in your yard, you'll start understanding how everything works and you'll feel more connected to it. You'll build more knowledge. He just watches me in the garden and then he understands and he goes to school and tells everyone all about it. So I did talk about incorporating your flowering perennials, bringing pollination year round. Go to the next slide. Okay, I think we already talked about healthy soil. So, as you can see here, we have our clover. Clover, I believe, is not even from America. I believe that's actually from Europe. But it helps fix nitrogen in the soil. We have rhizobia in here. These little nodules down here, those help with nitrogen in the soil. So you can plant that as a cover crop wherever you put heavy nitrogen feeding plants, like Zakaya. Yeah, please stop. Like corn, doing sunflowers, or something like tomatoes and peppers, things that take up a lot of nitrogen. You can put clover down after. My favorite thing to do for spring and summer gardens is going to be borage. Anyone have borage herbs in their garden before? Oh, you've got to go get you a packet of seeds. Once you do it, then it'll always reseed for you. You can eat the entire plant. It's the blue star flower. It brings in bees like no other. And you plant that next to your nitrogen-loving plants to help feed the soil. And whenever they're spit and crispy in the summer, I just chop them down, and then I'll lay them into the soil and let them decay and decompose. I'm not huge on taking things away because I know that the microbes are going to feed on it and build the soil. You want to build nice soil aggregation like chocolate cake, and the only way to do that is by building up that biomass from using mulch or compost or leaf matter and your flowers and everything that are falling to the ground. Just let it decay. The microbes will take care of it. Of course, we all know that pollination sustains reproduction in our plants. If you have a tomato garden but no flowers to bring them in, besides the tomato plants, you might not get a great harvest. One trick, if we have another harsh season, you can go to the store, get an electric toothbrush, like a cheap one, just like a battery one, and go behind each of the blooms on your tomatoes and peppers, and just like let it vibrate on the back. That'll shake the pollen up for you. It's a really easy one. And then the nutrient cycling builds long-term ecosystem sustainability. We've already talked about that. The more you have, the more sustainable your garden is, and the more it can build on top of itself over time. It's not gonna all happen at once. We're not gonna do a 15 grand plant installation and expect everything to be successful in the first 3-6 months. It takes time to be established. Your plants aren't even established when you put your perennials in after 1 year. It takes about 3 years for those roots to really get out, that taproot to go down, and for it to become its, I guess, most potential self. And then after that, it'll start to grow a little bit further. We can't ever say like, this plant's gonna be 3 feet, because sometimes it gets 6 feet. People are like, well, you told me. And I was like, well, you know, you must have great soil. So we talked about the healthy soil pollinator connection. If you don't have healthy soil, you have poisonous soil, you poison your wildlife, and you have sickly plants. Anybody compost at home? No? What kind of compost do you do?
Like put in all the veggie scraps and plant scraps,
Perfect.
brown paper.
Yes, that's awesome.
Oh, she gets it to the kitchen.
And then you do the rest. That's a good man. All right.
That's our method.
Okay. So-
He takes care of it, really.
I kind of do it a lazy way because I had no soil to begin with, and I got a chip drop. If you're ever familiar with that, it's overwhelming at first, but I think it's definitely worth it. I put that out on my property, and that built up the soil aggregation really fast. But
It's a chip drop.
you can put in an order. You go to the website Chip Drop, and it's local arborists who get their clippings. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what's in there. There's gonna be shoe in there. And it could also be chemically treated branches and trees from things. So be conscious of that. I used the Microlife on it for about 6 months before I started using it, so that it will decompose everything. It's once processed chip drop. It's a dump truck. You can't say drop off 5 yards. They're gonna drop off 14 or 20 yards. So be prepared for that. My husband hated me for a good month.
Give your next door neighbor's address.
Yeah, no, they weren't appreciative either. But my yard is so much healthier because of that. The wood decomposed, mulch's purpose is not only to retain soil moisture and keep warmth in the winter and keep it cool in the summer, it's also supposed to turn to black gold, which is your topsoil. So you want it to decompose. We don't want to use rubber. We don't want to use painted, synthetic treated mulch because none of that decomposes and feeds the soil. So Chip Drop is a great service. Just be prepared for it. Talk to your neighbors before it happens so no one gets upset, which I did not know. So just like we said, using clippings, using food waste, using your leaves. Like I use my leaves this year for mulch, and it's decomposing into my garden right now. And you get that beautiful black leaf mold. It's all wet and soggy. See everything to grow. Instead of having to spend like what, $400 on a pallet of mulch each winter or spring or summer, you can use your leaves every year. So we already talked about the wood living mulch. Anyone know what living mulch is? That's gonna be your ground cover. Your green ground covers, that can be a mulch for you. That also suppresses weeds. If you have living mulch that'll suppress weeds for you, also provide nutrients for the soil and pollinator support depending upon what you have. Horseherb is a ground cover and it's native and it's drought resistant. It'll start to disappear after a freeze, but it'll come back really quickly. It reseeds very fast. Reducing chemical inputs because it destroys our soil ecology like we talked about. Without life in the soil, we do not have life on top of the soil. And then again, we disrupt the nutrient cycle of the birds don't have anything to eat, and then the birds don't spread our seeds for us, and then it just starts to throw everything out, the keystone species, as far as plant life and our bug life. We're protecting soil biology, like we talked about, with using something like microlife to support your microbes. We cannot put native microbes in every bag of fertilizer we have for everywhere we sell because each region is different. But we have molasses, which treats the soil and also supports those microbes in the soil. And then the microbes within here help support those native microbes in your soil. So I am a huge advocate for everything native, but I'm not a purist and I go for science. Gentle cultivation, just being intentional what you do. Yes, this, azalea might be really pretty, but also might be very, very thirsty. And then we talk about grubs and bugs. They're soil builders. Everything has a job, whether it's gonna be to decay, feed, produce, or be eaten by something else. Our roly-polies are really important. Fungi in the soil, mushrooms, are really important. So we don't wanna spray the slime mold, the dog vomit, with a fungicide because that's actually a really important decomposer in your soil.
So how about mushroom blocks?
I love mushroom blocks.
I've never used any because I really don't know how.
Okay, so there's multiple locations in Cedar Park and all across Central Texas. And what you do is you get your blocks, definitely put a tarp in your truck bed or inside your vehicle because they're gonna kind of get leaky. It's not gonna smell great. You take the blocks and you can just smush them down with your feet and then open them up and spread them everywhere. You could throw them on top of your beds. You can fill your raised beds with them. You can put them in your pots and then put all your compost and soil on top. You can mix it in. They're wonderful. So you can crush them. I tried to fill up some beds last year with just like the blocks. It was really chunky because I wanted that volume and it did really well. I had gotten a great harvest. I'm gonna go get some more probably in the next few weeks to get ready for my spring planting, depending on when we have our next freeze. But I highly suggest using the mushroom blocks because all that waste, I think that each week it's 10,000 mushroom blocks go to the dump. When you go to the dump with food waste, especially in plastic, it takes hundreds of years to decompose because it's trapped in those plastics and they can't decompose, and then we get all these greenhouse gases and the carbon builds up and we can't sequester that carbon. So it's an issue. Go get your mushroom blocks. They're really beneficial to the garden. What did I do? All right. This is where you can start taking pictures. This is just a very short list of native and adaptive species of blooming plants that you can incorporate in or around your garden, your vegetable garden, so that you can bring in pollinators. Excuse me one moment, my allergies are kicking up. Y'all familiar with most of those plants on there? I mean, Hill Country Water Gardens, they sell pretty much all this. Sawtooth sunflower, or the sunflowers you'll see out there, and they have a rhizome, and then, or the Maximilian sunflowers, they have a bunch of sunflowers all over them, a little bit shorter. Dandelions are really important. Those are going to be one of your very first nectar sources for your pollinators in the springtime. They actually started to bloom again. Rock rose is going to be an early bloomer, sweet almond verbena when it warms up. Even though we had a freeze 2 weeks ago, they're probably going to start sprouting again, but they won't bloom yet. Gaillardia, that's what you'll see out there on the side of the highways. Yucca, all types of yuccas. Softleaf, red, those are going to be early spring bloomers as well. Mexican plum, that's going to be your first fruit. They have the small plums, they're very xeric, and they feed lots of wildlife, and they produce like crazy. Red buds, everyone loves those few weeks of red buds blooming. That's the fuchsia, the pink and purples that you see. That's a really good early spring nectar source. Oh no, where'd my picture go? I had a cute picture on there, it's gone. I don't know what it was, but
Nothing.
Boosting.
Probably wildlife playing.
It was a rock rose. It was no, actually, it was a wine cup. I had taken a really pretty picture of a wine cup, and you could see all the pollen everywhere. Your bees love them. Okay, prairie grasses are really important. I love using your muleys, your blue stems, all the beautiful Texas prairie grasses that you can get. It took me a while to get on board with it because coming from conventional back to organics, I was more focused on flowers and vegetables. And then I built this really great appreciation for grasses because birds like to play in them, frogs and lizards like to hide in them, and they have a really pretty kind of golden look in the winter after a freeze when they dry out. Super important, don't cut them down to the ground. That's a horrible practice, and you're destroying habitat when you do that. Just let them grow, and then they'll shoot out new grasses in the springtime. And then let a third of your herbs flower and go to seed. Like basil, I still let that up because all of our little wrens, they like to eat the seeds off of there. Same thing with salvia. They'll go and they'll eat the little seeds off of the spent blooms. Do that. You don't have to get rid of all of it. Leave a little bit of something to go to flower for the bees, the butterflies, the hummingbirds, the bats, all of that. Next one. Anyone have questions on this page? No? Yes.
All about
Alright. We'll go. Wait. I feel
Was
like
there a summer?
there was a summer.
There
There it is.
No. How did I do that? Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, we're good. We're on summer. So Greg's mist, I didn't put blue mist or white or pink because it's all the mist. Use all the mist flower that you could ever do. They're all beautiful. Turk's cap, I don't care what Big Mama or your dwarf one, use it. It's great, doesn't require a lot of water. Any of the salvia gregae, those are cultivars. Hummingbirds love them. You can plant them in full sun or in partial shade. You can put them in dappled shade too, and they can still produce flowers. Really great for the hummingbirds. Coneflower everywhere, they like it high and dry. It takes a little bit of time to take off here on the limestone, but once they get established, they look beautiful. The giant coneflower, absolutely love them. Gotta get your hands on some of that, they get huge. Goldenrod, that's a keystone species. Bee brush, that's another one that we're talking about that's like a sweet almond. Rosemary, heat drought tolerant, not a native, but adaptive and it produces lots of blooms. There's our Texas kidney one. Blackfoot daisy is a cultivar, but you can throw it over your shoulder, it lands on a rock, and it's gonna continue to bloom and grow. Pride of Barbados, that's from South America, but really great nectar support for our hummingbirds. Rudbeckia, that's gonna be your black-eyed Susans and whatnot. They're kind of thirsty though. You don't put them in afternoon shade, they really crash and wilt, if you notice that. Any stage, desert willow, beautiful trees that we're talking about with the bell flowers that have a nectar source for your pollinators. And then, like we said, expect a third of your veggies to go to the critters and a third of your veggies to go to wildlife. Using native and adaptive perennials near or around your veggie garden, it's gonna be more sustainable. We'll use less water. You don't have to put salvia in your vegetable beds, you can just put it around. If it's in the same yard, you're still gonna get pollination to come to your vegetable garden. Then, I have these really pretty pictures that I took myself, and they're not here. Okay, sometimes we get burnt out and we crash during fall because we're tired from whatever havoc was wreaked on us in summer, whether it was severe drought or severe flooding. When I want to talk about flooding real quickly, we live in a region, we'll always have flash flooding. We'll always have it. This is part of the history here. But we can reduce the impact of that by building up the soil quality. Caliche is always hard, but we can make it more porous by adding in the microbes back into the soil and feeding that soil. So not cleaning everything up, not making everything leafless, adding the microbes back in, then the water and the rain will be able to penetrate better so it doesn't just hit and run off. That's what happens when we have flash flooding. It comes down so fast, so quick, it runs off really fast, but it can soak some of that up if we have porous soil. even caliche soil. So by fall, we're all kind of tired. We're dead. We don't really want to pay much attention to our tomatoes and peppers, and we sometimes rip them all out and restart. But we also need to think about what are our star plants that are going to start blooming around that time and really showing off after all that heat and all that stress and all that humidity and then all the drought again and then more humidity, where we got all this fungal disease on our leaves. Fall obedient plant is going to start blooming. See, my picture was beautiful. You could have seen it. It was gorgeous. It has purple bells on it. Super stunning. It's not invasive, it's just aggressive. It grows like crazy. Think about elephant ears or canna lilies, how they reproduce. That's what's gonna happen. I didn't put in Mexican Ruellia because that is technically invasive and that reseeds wildly. So fall obedient plant is a better option compared to the Ruellia. I think the ground cover Ruellia is native. I can't remember, but don't quote me on that. We got fall aster. That's gonna be a great one for butterflies and bees. Any of the sunflowers, Turk's cap, rock rose, datura. You do wanna have some of your night bloomers out or your night pollinators. Any sage, Copper Canyon daisy starts to come out and start to bloom about that time. That's one that has a pungent smell that helps deter. Now, if you live out on the lake, you're on your own. That's the Wild West. The bunnies and the deer will eat anything. They'll eat things with thorns on them. Anything with like a really rough leaf they don't like. Anything that's real juicy, they love to eat. So soft and juicy. But rough leaves, pungent smelling, they don't typically like. Any salvia. I put basil there because by this time it's cooling down, they're flowering. And then goldenrod, of course, Saxminia, that's another pungent one. Blackfoot daisy starts to really bloom again. Coneflower, sweet almond verbena, orange globe mallow can look horrible during the summer, but looks stunning in the fall and early winter. Super beautiful, orange flowers. It's just like, looks like a tiny hibiscus, really pretty. And then what we say here in Central Texas, or just in Texas in general, fall is for planting. This is our second spring. Perfect time to get anything in the ground, especially like more perennials, to get them established before next summer. Fruit trees, any tree in general. You can plant trees now in winter. That's fine, but just be prepared for a freeze. They should be fine. Any questions on this before we move on? No, we're good? Okay. This list next is a little smaller because there's not much going on in the winter besides your evergreens and your vegetables and your herbs for the winter. Texas quince, see that picture showed up? So Texas quince is absolutely stunning in the winter time. That's gonna be a huge showstopper for you. Doesn't really have leaves on it for the most part in the winter, but it has beautiful blooms. Agarita will have berry sources for your wildlife. Same thing with possum haw and Yopon hollies. Those produce beautiful berries for the winter. Gives you lots of gorgeous color. And that's when we have all our birds out and about trying to forage. And I like to tell people, leave your deciduous branches and leaves for our hibernating friends like our bees and our little caterpillars and everything. And then the birds like to shelter in there. So I don't like to clean up grasses. And I won't chop down any of my sages or salvias. You don't want to chop anything down in the winter anyways, because if we get a freeze, you leave that open to get the freeze inside the plant, it goes down to the root. We don't want to open it up right before a freeze. So if you have to have something cleaned up because of your HOA, wait till early spring. I don't clean up till maybe like late spring, till I see everything starting to pop out. Then I just throw all my branches down and let it decompose. Then I put mulch on top of it. And microlime. Any questions here? No? We're good? Alright, let's see what time it is. Make sure I'm. Oh, okay. We're gonna go fast. Alright, small changes. Like I said, delay garden cleanup. We're gonna leave seed heads, like I talked about, leaving some of the seed heads, especially on milkweed. We definitely want to leave those out so they can spread. You can collect them and share them, but let them spread on their own. Reduce disturbance. Try not to move the soil too much because things are still waking up. You want to produce as much biomass in a natural cycling as possible. Provide a water source. We have water restrictions. Easy ways to do that is having like a little tray of rocks and putting water out every day for your bees and your butterflies and your hummingbirds. Or if you wanted a larger water feature, you can use the big bend stones. Anyone familiar with those? Has anyone been to Hill Country Water Gardens? So there's these water features that are made out of these huge limestone rocks. And they have nice little puddlers in them where birds can go sit in and bees can go sit in and drink. Stunning water features that you can absolutely do. I don't recommend doing the big, beautiful English or the European water features because bees and birds drown in those sometimes. If you can use more natural rock, then that's gonna be more accessible to multiple forms of wildlife. So you don't, I'm not saying go spend $2,000 on a water feature. You can just put a tray out and fill it with water every day. Putting some sand, some mineral, DG, pebbles, that helps with the nutrients in their guts. Dedicate this space to habitat. So, any questions on this here? Everyone's good? Sorry, I'm on your way.
So on your water feature, you don't need to worry about, if you have a pan of rocks, you don't have to worry about mosquitoes?
If it's moving, no.
No.
But if it's sitting there, you can always put, there's these little pellets, these BT
Yeah,
pellets.
that's what we do.
You can put that in there. But typically it's not sitting there long enough because it'll evaporate so fast in the summer.
Mm.
But if you go on my Ripples and Roots, if you go to our Instagram on here, you'll see a really easy water feature that my son came up with. We just took like a glazed pot and then a lily bucket, which is just like a black basin. We put a bunch of limestone that I dug out into it, and then I got like a little bamboo pump, just teeny tiny. So the basin's only this big, but we filled it up with rocks and we used the pot because it made it look pretty. And that water cycling through provided functional water that wasn't stagnant and also a sound to bring in the wildlife. But if it is stagnant, you do need to add something in there. The BT bits, there's so many brands of them.
Yeah.
But you never put those out in actual ecosystems, nowhere where it can run off into the water, because that disrupts ecosystem as well. So as long as it's contained, it's fine. And you can use those in your houseplants. The BT bits, if you have gnats or bugs in your houseplants, you can use those in a drench, put the water with the bits, and then soak your plants with them.
Oh, that's good enough.
Oh yeah, yes.
Our raised beds have settled a little bit, so we need to add like 4 inches of soil.
Mhm.
What would you recommend as far as, would it be better to just add the soil on top? Would it be better to try to take some of that existing soil and migrate them
No.
all together?
I highly recommend allowing that soil to stay, that's below the surface, stay down there because it's working, it's decomposing, it's creating a thriving ecology. Take some leaf mold if you have it in your yard, start filling that up, and when you're ready to start putting some soil in, you can do the mushroom blocks, mush those up in the bags, put that out, and then put your compost and soil if you need it. But that should be quite enough. You need 4 inches. Grab your neighbor's leaves, get some mushroom blocks.
Well, so this is in our vegetable garden?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's good. I have those Vego beds, or those metal ones, and that's basically what I did. So you just want to add some nutrients back in, then you can start adding your compost and your soil into there as well.
And do you have a recommendation for, like, soil?
Where are you at? Everyone?
So we're right here in Cedar Park, so we've got Home Depot, we've got the landscape places that give it to you in bulk. We tried that initially, and we just felt like that wasn't very, like, good garden soil.
Well, I have a few different recommendations, and number one, I'm always for local, independent. I'm never gonna send you to a box store because I wanna support our community here, because when we go to box stores, we're not supporting native plants, we're not supporting our local community. I wanna keep our local communities in business as long as we possibly can. I know it's really hard whenever things seem cheaper or more accessible at the stores. If you can go to Hill Country, go to Hill Country. If you can go to Farmers, Farmers makes their own soil.
Where's that?
It's about 2 miles going northbound on 183 Bell. There's Round Rock Gardens, there's also Berry Hill, which is down the way. Those are good options. I honestly think if you can just capture whatever leaves you have in your yard, throw that in the bed, go grab you some mushroom blocks, crush that up. You might only have to use, how big are your beds?
Probably 2 by 10 on average.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably 6
So-
or 7 of them.
Probably like 4 bags of soil to top them off, maybe.
Well, I like your idea, and I'm more concerned with the microorganisms in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I go to Home Depot or whatever, I'm like, I don't know even what I'm getting.
Yeah.
And then with her potting soil, we think that it comes with bugs or something that's
Mhm.
eating the seedlings, because despite our best efforts to quarantine an indoor space, we're still having little pepper tops get chomped by something.
It could be dampening off if they're too moist. They'll get a fungal issue. What soil are you using to grow your seedlings?
Well, yeah, so we
But
had
it's
just
not
Home
at soil
Depot.
level, something like eats the leaves off. It's like there's eggs that are dormant in it and they,
Okay, you can send me pictures. You can send it to my email or my phone, and then I can help consult on what that is. You can use Fox Farms. You can use Nature's Creation.
We had some from Callaway's, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That
I don't know
was
what they
the last bag we sold or bought.
I'll give you some recommendations. Fox Farms is going to be the most high nutrient, widely available potting soil that you can get, and they have seed starting soils as well. So we'll talk more after.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Did you say Fox Farms?
Fox Farms. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but at HEB.
Well, they have them at Hill Country Water Gardens.
Yeah.
and they have them at Berry Hill and Barton Spring. So if you can, even though HEB is Texas, if you can support more the local, it would make a world of difference for them. That means a paycheck and them holding on to another employee. So if you can support them, whether it's $50 here, $200 there, please do. I used to work in the industry in nurseries, and you don't do it to be rich, you do it because you're passionate and you want to help community, and it's soul-sucking to go to a job that pays more when you have to work corporate from being outside all the time because you love it and the hard work is great. Gives you an adrenaline rush. Okay, any other questions on this? We'll move on. And then I'll open up for more questions after. I don't think we have too many other slides. I think we already kind of went over this. Pruning, we want to make sure we don't prune too early, allow things to start sprouting back and give our hibernation friends enough time to come out. And then seasonal observation, see what's coming to your yard and garden at what points of the year so you can prepare for it next year, so you kind of get an understanding. I know we live in Central Texas. Sometimes it feels like summer in the middle of January. So it's kind of hard because I know Vitex, they're not native, but they were blooming in June. They were trying to bloom in December, which is really out of place. So we just kind of have to go by that intuitive instinct. Strategic planting, making sure you plant things that require full sun and things that require shade and shade, or afternoon shade and afternoon shade. That's when we observe, we figure out, okay, this time of year, I get 10 a.m. sun. In the middle of summer, my plant is frying, maybe I need to plant it somewhere that gets a little bit more shade, or plant something higher up that can protect it in the summertime, so that whenever it's not as hot, it can get plenty of sun, and in the middle of summer, it's getting some shade. Habitat layering, we're just producing a biodiverse environment. Bless you. We're producing a biodiverse environment where we are supporting multiple different life forms, not just butterflies, not just bees, not just bats, not just moths, everything in one. And then continue your soil enrichment. You can use the microlife products or compost at least once a year. These are 3-month slow release granules. You do not have to do it every 3 months. If you have a heavy remediation project, use it as much as you can to help rebuild that soil. It takes about 6 months to a year to really get a great growth out of it. I would say after 6 months of using Microlife maybe 4 times, my yard was greener than ever from going to hard concrete caliche and burnt and dead everything. I had a beautiful garden after that. I'll have to share, if you guys want my email, I'll share some of the pictures of the process of what happened with that, so you know I'm not just BSing. I'm all about science. So 3 months slow release, spring and fall, or you can use it every month, you can use it every day. Doesn't matter what temperature it is, it will never burn. So 115 degrees or down to negative 47 degrees. It's always viable, it'll never burn, you'll save resources with it, and you'll build up your soil aggregation and ecology with it.
What
Liquid,
about putting it on your lawn?
mhm.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Lawn, your flower beds, your vegetable beds, potted plants. We have liquids, you can use it aquatically, you can use it in hydroponics. Whenever you feed your lawn, you're feeding your trees because your roots are going all the way out. Say some of those trees over there, they go like 50 yards out one way and the other way. So when you're talking about using products on your lawn, if you use something like weed and feed, and you notice your tree starting to turn gray and brown after 6 months or a year, it's because that tree is taking up those chemicals and it's killing it. So nutrient enrichment, I think we only have like one more slide maybe. Nope, I lied, totally lied. We're gonna transform your garden from yard to sanctuary. This is basically repeating the same thing, so you're good on that. You see that there are some holes in here that is completely fine. It's not devastating your whole crop. You can still eat it. I've never tasted a hole on a leaf before, you know? Maybe an apple that had a worm in it, that's a different case. But you're not gonna taste those holes on those plants. They're perfectly fine to eat. And you see all these different annuals growing in here and some perennials in the background. This is a really great way to garden. We're bringing in pollinators, we're providing nutrient cycling within the soil. We're also creating some trap plants that bugs will rather go to than rather to our harvest that we want to eat over here. And plant, bless you, intermittently. If you're doing lettuce, plant some seedlings 1 week and then 2 weeks later plant some more. Or throw some seeds out every so often so that you just can always have a harvest throughout the cooler season. Let's see. Understanding that nature is a functional system. Everything has a purpose. It all works together. There's a cycle of life. Just as we see here, we're sharing our garden with caterpillars and worms. It's not the end of the world. Unless you live in Brenham, Texas, and it's like the year of the army worms every 17 years or whenever that is, I don't know. That's pretty crazy. But that happens when we get out of balance. We start losing our bugs because we're spraying pesticides, then our soil quality gets horrible, and then everything starts getting sick. We start losing our birds. Our birds are dissipating quite rapidly, so we're having more issues with bugs that we typically have always had. They're not new, but there's not much to keep them in control. So that's why I don't want to spray even with organic pesticides. Habitat awareness, ongoing stewardship, we're always going to take care of Earth. We are here to take care of the Earth and give back to her and not continually taking from her. So we're here to give back and steward it, not to continue to take away. Because if we continue to take away, we cannot receive back. So let's live in harmony with nature. And flies. Flies are actually pollinators, guys. We're not talking about house flies and horse flies, but we have some flies that help pollinate. So we're gonna be able to, I think you guys know the different pollinator plants, right, that you'll need? Okay, perfect. And then if this is a squash. That's a beautiful little bee in there. That's a picture I took. Lots of pollen. Anything that's tubular shaped, hummingbirds. Anything that has a flat top, butterflies, and bees. And then anything with high pollen sources, that's gonna be your bees. Ecosystem interconnectedness, commit to one pollinator friendly habitat, And then, let's see, oh, we were talking about intermittent planting. If you don't want to create a habitat within your garden, you can always have like a little pocket prairie somewhere. Just like a 2x2, 4x4, something with native plants. I have a small space. My neighbors think I'm crazy because I've extended my flower beds like 3-6 feet every year. It's coming closer to the sidewalk, which I think is fine because I've seen other people do that in the neighborhood. I'm just trying to be a little low key about it. Okay, what's one change that everyone can make this season? Anyone have an idea in your house and garden, something that you would like to change? You raise your hand, or if you have a suggestion that I haven't said. Anyone have something that they know they can do at home? Building soil ecology.
I think I can not bag up all the leaves that are still on the ground.
Yes, you can, honestly, you could get just like a big old trash can or something, or even a raised bed, and just put all of them in there and let them decompose. You could put some of the microlife products on it and it'll decompose faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have money leaves, we can.
I mean, can I come pick up a truckload?
You probably could.
Okay, that would be a great community service. I'm all about building community.
I did have a guy come to the house and actually help me rake them up so he could take them to his compost pile.
I love that. That's awesome. I mean, give me your number.
No?
I would want to take some leaves away. Anyone else have any ideas?
Is it a good idea to mulch the leaves before you put them, like
Yeah.
take them out, use the lawnmower, mulch them, and then put them back
You
in the
can
bed?
do that. You can do that, most definitely. There'll be people like, you're cutting up all the caterpillars and bugs. And I'm like, well, you know.
Is it beneficial or?
Yeah, it'll decompose faster. It'll be beneficial.
Because it seems like it just like makes like this impermeable
Mat.
layer. Mat.
And it
Yeah.
starts to decompose over time. You'll see all the fungi starting to come up. So, and that's why I recommend putting on something like the Humates Plus or Mycorrhizal Plus. That'll help decompose it faster so that you can get more penetration with it. In the wintertime, I definitely want that layer because I want to insulate all that one below. Anyone else have ideas?
So we had decorative stone areas in the house that we bought, which looked great when we put the offer in. By the time we got into the house, had been overgrown with like a Bermuda grass. And it took me like 3 years of trying to conquer that grass and failing. And you can't mow it because it's on river rocks.
Yeah.
So I had to take it all up and I plasticked. And I know that kills everything.
Yeah.
But I was really just trying to kill
Solarize.
the Bermuda grass,
Mhm.
so I'm going to try to unplastic some in the hopes that the Bermuda grass doesn't return because it's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And so that's
So,
my plan for year 4.
how long have you had the plastic out?
Probably like a year or so now.
Oh yeah, it should be dead. So when you do that, I don't ever recommend using just rock as a mulch because you still have the weeds like you've experienced. And the more mulch you use to compress it, like heavy mulch, 4 to 6 inches of mulch, that'll compress it. Then you can start spot treating it with horticultural vinegar. Dense plant life will help outcompete. I know I've seen like Bermuda grass poking up this high out of a salvia. But you just pull it. It's not as thick as it's going to be if it's growing in rock because it just crawls on top of the weed tarp and it just takes off like crazy. So just rebuild the soil health after you take the plastic off. Use I don't have it, it's the purple bag of Humates Plus, or you can use the bioinoculant to help with the nutrients in the soil. You're doing good. Yes?
2 questions. What is horticulture vinegar?
It's vinegar, but it's horticultural grade. You can't use the vinegar that's for cooking. It's not strong enough. Horticulture vinegar is very abrasive, and you have to be careful not to spill it on yourself because it's going to burn. You get on the internet, find a recipe, mix it with some water, a little bit of vinegar, and some soap, and you spray it on, and it suffocates and burns the weeds. Or just plants in general. So you don't want to do it right up at the base of a tree because you're going to hurt the tree.
But you could do it on a fence line.
Fence line, you can do it in sidewalks. Your grass is going to burn. I don't care about grass. unless it's a prairie grass. So, yeah.
And then what do you recommend for Nuts Edge?
Oh my gosh. Getting the neighborhood kids to do a contest to see how many can pull, who can pull the longest line of Nuts Edge. I've had multiple people tell me that they use the molasses, liquid molasses. That will help it. I don't have an issue with Nuts Edge in my yard and garden. If I do get it, I just kind of pull it little by little, but the molasses over time, using it heavily, will help reduce that. Also, flower farmers that sell flowers to florists, they do molasses liquid foliar sprays weekly to help build and strengthen the cell walls of the plants so that they are more resistant to pests like aphids and thrips. It makes them thicker and stronger. So that's another thing. If you're putting it out for Nuts Edge, your other plants are going to be really strong and beautiful. And that's in microlife.
And also just accept how nice of a plant it is. Just
Except your feet.
accept that it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, those nuts get in the ground. It's kind of going to be there. Any other questions? No? Okay. I think that was it. And then I think this next one is QR code slide. Yep. So I think that's Instagram or website. One of these is a microlife website. One's an Instagram. If you guys have any questions, need consulting, please email or text me on my business line. I also have the Ripples and Roots Wildscapes. If you want to know how to get involved with your community, get some free resources, help with the students at St. Edward's, or just get more information, I'm available. And I live in Cedar Park. I'm trying to be more involved here. I love traveling across Texas, but I want to stay home with my son as much as possible instead of traveling. So I want to be more involved here at our home. All right, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I have samples here. Everybody can take some samples if you have questions where they are. Our fertilizer is sold at independent nurseries across Texas and the South. We have it even in Hawaii. So pretty much every larger nursery here, you're gonna have it. Leaf Landscape, at both locations, they probably have the most. Hill Country Water Gardens is right across the street. So please do support local.
You know, do they have it at Farmer's Grass?
Oh, farmers, no, they don't have it, but they used to carry it, but they don't have it anymore because Berry Hill has it and Hill Country Water Gardens has it. Yeah, but they do have bulk soil compost.
We had it shipped from Houston, it was a little expensive.
Yeah, just get it at the store. It's too much to get shipped. You probably were on the online organic.
Yeah.
I can't remember their name, but they ship. Yeah, because they're right next to our warehouse. So they walk over, grab it, and then they ship it to you. Yeah. Okay.
Good for them.
Yes, come get some samples.